Did you know that if you draft the RB1 in your fantasy football draft, the chances of you winning your championship increase by 50%?
We do not care.
Did you also know that you probably won't draft the RB1 in your fantasy football league unless you watch this video until the end and like, comment, and subscribe?
Shut up, bitch!
Last year, we ranked the top 10 fantasy football running backs, and everything was going according to plan until Javonte Williams' knee exploded into a million pieces. Najee Harris decided to be the most inconsistent running back in football, and DeAndre Swift did what DeAndre Swift does best: get hurt. So with all of that being said, here are the top 12 running backs for fantasy football in 2023, ranked in a flawless order because it was touched by the hand of God himself. And because I'm a 25-year-old degenerate who takes this fantasy sport way too seriously and figured out how to use a camera and microphone. But before we get started, one special word from one special guest, ready to make this video 20 times better.
I just got 3 things to say. God bless our troops, God bless America, and gentlemen, start your engine!
At number 12, we have Joe Mixon. And Joe Mixon might be the most boring player you can draft, but you know that he's going to produce this year. The thing that I can't stress enough, and the thing that people argue most, is that Joe Mixon was very inefficient last year. And that is true. But look at players who were inefficient in years past, but still produced as an RB1 in fantasy football. The old argument was Tony Pollard versus Ezekiel Elliott. Ezekiel Elliott was very inefficient down the past few years down the stretch with his time with Dallas. And Tony Pollard, by every metric, was the more efficient running back when he saw the field. The point is that Joe Mixon, none of his situation has changed, and I would argue that it got better. Everything in Cincinnati is the same, and Joe Mixon's situation did get better. At number 11, I have Gibby from iCarly. Truthfully, I went back and forth on putting Jamir Gibbs on this list, but one of the things that really convinced me to put Gibbs on this list was when you look at the 2017 Saints with Mark Ingram and, I believe, rookie Alvin Kamara. Alvin Kamara was able to finish as the RB4, and Mark Ingram finished as the RB6, and I think that in this offense, given the situation with boy genius Ben Johnson, I think that this is going to be a very similar offense in that both David Montgomery and Jamir Gibbs will see tons of success. I'm very high on Gibbs because he checks a lot of boxes that are important to rookie running back success. He has the draft capital. He went 12th overall by the Lions. He runs a 4.36. His receiving capability, he saw a 14.7, which is the 97th percentile college target share, which is insane. And he was an early declare at year 3. I think there's tons of other reasons why Jamir Gibbs is going to be a success. I think the most telling sign, there is a video of the Lions during draft night, and they were willing to take Jamir Gibbs at number 6 overall. And you could be saying, okay, who cares if they're going to reach on him at 6? The thing that's crazy to me is they were going to take Jamir Gibbs at number 6 over Bijan Robinson, who went to the Falcons at number 8. If they really were going to take Gibbs at 6 with Bijan on the board, that tells me they have such incredible plans for this player that they're going to shape their entire offense around him and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think that Gibbs, with what potential he brings in the receiving field and with how good... At number 10, I have Breece Hall. If we look at some numbers brought to us by people who are way smarter than me and way better at reading a data sheet, there are a lot of reasons to be very optimistic on Breece Hall besides he's looking like a potential outlier when it comes to ACL recovery time. Because normally, like with J.K. Dobbins last year, if a player, specifically a running back, tears their ACL, they're almost an automatic fade for me the year following. But Breece Hall, by every indication, seems to be an outlier. He was clocked at 22 miles per hour, which was his top ball carrying speed in 2022 in mid-June, I believe. And he was clocked at 23 miles per hour, which was faster than he was the year prior in late July and again in August. So it seems like he's made a full recovery from the ACL tear. One of which is he was 4th in the NFL last year in missed tackles forced, 2nd in explosive run percentage on runs over 15 yards. That's brought to us by Alex Caruso on Twitter. Definitely give him a follow. He's great. And 3rd in rush yards after contact per attempt. I would expect his rush yards after contact to maybe take a dip and maybe take a dip in his missed tackles forced rate. But if we're talking about a dip from 3rd and 4th, respectively, down to, I don't know, maybe like top 20, top 15, that's still really, really good. And I think that Breece Hall has top 5-ish upside if everything goes according to plan, and he really is this outlier. And this is factoring in with Dalvin Cook there. At number 9, I have Derrick Henry, and I don't think there's too much to explain here other than the Titans probably aren't going to be that good through the air because they have Ryan Tannehill, and I know they brought in DeAndre Hopkins, and Treylon Burks is there. But Derrick Henry is a catalyst for this offense. Did have a down year last year, but he still rushed for over 1,300 yards and had 10 touchdowns. And I don't think there's really anything else to say. Just don't sleep on Derrick Henry.
Please go away. Let me sleep for the love of God.
At number 8, and this may come to a shock for a lot of people, I have Austin Ekeler. If I was an idiot, I would have Austin Ekeler lower on this list. Just kidding. If I was an idiot, I'd have Austin Ekeler higher on this list.
Hey pal, you just blowing from Stupid Town?
If anyone that's going in the first round is poised to fall off and not be going in the first round next year, it's Austin Ekeler. You could be saying, Mike, how are you saying this? Austin Ekeler just finished as the RB1 last year in both PPR and standard formats, despite the typo you have on your screen right there. Yes, I know. Austin Ekeler is going into his age 28 season, and he's never rushed for over 1,000 yards. The thing that has made Austin Ekeler so viable in fantasy is that he's seen over 100 receptions each of the past 2 years. That's not going to happen this year as they've changed their offensive coordinator, the Chargers that is, to Kellen Moore. And with Kellen Moore, we've seen him run air raid style offenses, and there are reports now that they want Austin Ekeler to see less receiving volume and more rushing volume, which doesn't poise well for Austin Ekeler as he's only been able to rush for 4.49 yards per carry last year, and we can expect that number to go down as he's getting older. The other thing is, the Chargers invested a first-round pick in Quentin Johnston this year out of TCU, so they're going to want to throw the ball more, and they're going to run more 3 wide receiver sets. And last year, when both Keenan Allen and Mike Williams were healthy, Austin Ekeler did see a dip in receptions per game on a game-to-game basis. So for all those reasons, I'm 100% going to fade Austin Ekeler this year. I think that if you want to draft him at his current ADP, go ahead, be my guest, but I'm not sinking with that ship. At number 7, I have Nick Chubb. The moment we have all been waiting for as fantasy managers. He will finally have the backfield all by himself, which he has never seen in his entire career. Now that Kareem Hunt is gone and Jerome Ford is back there,
Who the hell is that?
there is no reason why Nick Chubb doesn't have top 3 upside. There have been multiple reports coming out of Browns training camp all summer long, some specifically from a man named Stump, who happens to be the Browns running back coach, saying that Nick Chubb is in for the biggest workload he's ever seen in his entire career. If I wasn't a coward, I would have Nick Chubb higher on this list, to be honest with you. If he's going to see more receiving work, there's no reason why he couldn't have 1,500 rushing yards and 500 receiving yards this year. At number 6, I have Josh Jacobs. Remember last year when Josh Jacobs was going in round 10, and then he went and won the rushing title? In my opinion, Josh Jacobs has been arguably one of the most slept-on players in the league for a very long time. Stop me if you've heard these things on Twitter by fantasy experts. He's a touchdown merchant. He doesn't have breakaway speed. Zamir White is going to eat into his workload. Josh Jacobs is set up to murder in 2023, and there's nothing else to it. At number 5, I have Ramondre Stevenson. At 245 pounds,
Damn, boy, he's thick.
Ramondre Stevenson is destined to be a league winner this year, and it's not because of his weight or his Eddie Lacy comparison. You know, Ramondre Stevenson was my first ever take.
We do not care.
Ramondre Stevenson wasn't crazy efficient on the ground, but what he saw in receiving work made him an RB7 last year alone. With Damian Harris gone and Ezekiel Elliott being brought in, I don't see why Ramondre Stevenson can't finish as the RB7 again. I think with Bill O'Brien taking over and the lack of passing weapons in the receiving game, there's no reason why Ramondre Stevenson can't do what he did last year. At number 4, I have Tony Pollard. Tony Pollard is basically efficiency, targets, pretty much anything you want to say. Tony Pollard's pretty good at it. Tony Pollard is set up for extreme success this year because he's in a backfield pretty much all by himself, and the only other person there is like Deuce Vaughn or Malik Davis.
Who the hell is that?
During last season when Pollard took over the backfield, we saw how productive he could be, and now with Mike McCarthy calling plays, he's probably going to run Tony Pollard until he's dead like he did with all of his running backs in Green Bay. And I think that Tony Pollard is another player who definitely has top 3 upside and could finish potentially as the RB1 overall. At number 3, I have Saquon Barkley. Like I correctly predicted last year when Saquon Barkley was in a contract year, He's in another contract year, so he's going to have another monster year. And this might be the first time in his whole career where he's had a year of continuity where he wasn't hurt and they actually have an adult coaching their team. At number 2, I have Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey is the golden child of fantasy football. This man could literally do nothing wrong. When Christian McCaffrey was getting injured at a higher rate than the My Leg guy from SpongeBob, people were still hesitant to call him injury prone. I think there's a chance that CMC might slow down a little bit just because of his age, but with how injury prone he is, I wouldn't really worry because the running backs behind him are even more injury prone. Elijah Mitchell's already hurt and the season hasn't even started yet. One thing I do want to call out, though, is Christian McCaffrey's game splits. These are brought to you by RotoViz. And in the 4 games, Christian McCaffrey was in a split with Elijah Mitchell. His overall stats did take a dip. I'm not worried about it being Elijah Mitchell per se this year, but I do think that there will be another running back with CMC, and there already are reports of them trying to monitor his workload this year because of how overused he was at Carolina. And I think that if this is going to affect anything, his efficiency will go up, but his overall volume I would expect to take a dip. But I think still, with all of that being said, Christian McCaffrey still will be fine. I wouldn't be worried about McCaffrey though, because he did play 17 games last year and he did shoulder arguably the biggest workload of his career. Some people might think this is crazy, but at number 1 I have Bijan Robinson.
I want to touch on you legally.
The Falcons' opponents this year allowed a whopping total of 126.98 average rushing yards per game, and that's the only shred of math my brain could handle for this video. There is not a doubt in my mind that Bijan won't be a do-it-all player for the Falcons. I am higher on Ritter than most people for sure, but I think that this offense is going to flow through Bijan, and when your coach is Arthur Smith, who came from Tennessee and helped design the Derrick Henry offense that we know today, I think that Bijan Robinson is just going to be the Atlanta Derrick Henry. Bijan finished the last season of his college career with the whopping 6.1 yards per attempt, 4.17 yards after contact, 41 runs of 10+ yards, and more importantly, he had a crazy 1.52 yards per route run metric, which is more than Michael Pittman, Hollywood Brown, Gabe Davis, George Pickens, Jahan Dotson, and Deontay Johnson had in the NFL last year. But that's going to do it for this video. Thanks for checking out the channel. This is Pylon Cam. My name is Mike. Check out my social media. I'm going to have more Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts up on the channel and on Instagram, so check out our Instagram. And follow me on Twitter for daily updates and daily thoughts from my brain and what will probably be in future videos later on. But thanks for checking out the channel, and I'll catch you in the next video. Peace!